everybody, it's Anna Willats here with you again. Really glad to be with you. Hope you're staying cool in this heat. I wanted to talk with you today about a couple of different things. First is a campaign that I'm involved with. It's called Step It Up Ontario. It's a provincial campaign that includes members of women's groups right around the province, particularly the Ontario Association of Interval and Transition Houses, women working in women's centers, union women, and educators like myself from George Brown College. So we're all working together for the second time on a provincial campaign called Step It Up Ontario. This is a campaign where we have outlined a platform of the 10 steps that it would take on the part of the Ontario government to end violence against women. Most of the members of this campaign work on issues of violence against women or on women's issues that come up when we're dealing with violence against women, like childcare and workers' rights and things like that. So the Step It Up Ontario campaign started, the first time we launched this campaign was at the last provincial election, and what we did then was we approached all of the party leaders that were running for election in the provincial election. We approached them to meet to talk about 10 steps that we've outlined as a group that need to be taken to enable women not only to prevent violence, but also to escape violence and to thrive after they have experienced violence in their lives. Once again, in the provincial election, our current provincial election is going to happen on October 6th, and we'll be talking lots about it in the coming weeks. But leading up to this election, we once again are arranging meetings with the leaders. We have meetings with the Liberals and with the NDP scheduled for next week, the week of July 18th. So we're going to meetings and we're taking these steps to them, and we're saying to them, for you to deserve the women's vote, for you to be serious about a commitment to end violence against women, these are things that your party needs to commit to, and we would like to see your party commit to these things in the coming election in your platform. And these are the steps that we want those parties to take. We want them to understand that violence against women is an equality rights issue. When women experience violence, it's not because of bad decisions they've made. It's not because they are prone to pick the wrong kind of man. We need to get past these myths, and we need to understand that women experience violence because of power dynamics and inequalities in their lives, particularly between men and women, but not only between men and women. We also recognize that there are many other inequalities that women experience. We want the parties to understand that male power is upheld by rape and sexual harassment. The threat of sexual violence prevents women from gaining anything in their lives, prevents women from leaving bad situations, reminds women constantly about the power that men hold over them solely because they are men. We need the parties to understand that in order for women to escape violence and thrive after violence, they need to stop racism and oppression, that these things are a form of violence and they need to make Ontario accessible. We want to press upon the party leaders that it's important, if they want to deal with violence against women, to end poverty now. And along with that, they need to create and maintain housing, non-profit childcare, and many, many other services for women if women hope to be able to protect themselves from violence and leave violence once it happens. We cannot leave abusive situations if we have nowhere to live, if we have no childcare, if we have no job. We need to make sure that the parties pledge to provide fair access to justice for women. We need them to hold violent men accountable for their actions rather than letting them off the hook with terrible excuses and trying to put off their violence and the way they take power over women as some kind of mental illness or a cultural problem. We understand that these are not the reasons why violence happens. Violence happens because men get away with it. Violence happens because women are not equal to men in many aspects of their lives. And we understand that violence happens because men will not be accountable for their actions, so we need our governments to hold them accountable. We need to stop criminalizing and psychiatrizing women. We need to stop telling women that what they're experiencing is not in fact violence and that they're crazy to be interpreting it that way. We need to make sure that women are not charged with violence when they try to defend themselves. We also need the political leaders and the parties to commit to secure funding for women's organizations in their budgets, to stop focusing on corporate bailouts and tax cuts at the expense of all the services that women need, including shelter support, including employment support and other kinds of services. And we also need the government to listen to survivors and women's advocates, because they and we are the experts. So that's what we're going to be talking to the political parties about, and we're going to be taking this forward throughout the next few weeks up until October 6th at the election. You can be involved in this campaign by going to Facebook, plugging in Step It Up Ontario, or going to the website www.stepitupontario.ca. Go and like us on Facebook to show the kind of support that we've got in the community. And if you're part of an organization, a community group, or a social service agency, you also can endorse our campaign, and there are information about how to do that on the website and on the Facebook page. So I really encourage you to do that. I'll be getting back to you later on about a day of action that will be happening in late September all across Ontario, and how you can get involved in that. That's currently being planned, so keep in touch around that, and visit our Facebook page and our website, and you can see more about how to get involved in this campaign. We can't end violence against women without the support of whoever it is that gets elected to the provincial legislature. The province has an incredible impact on women's lives in terms of funding for all sorts of services that we need and use when we're trying to deal with violence in our lives. And so it's important that they understand that they cannot just add more police here, or build a shelter here, or do something else piecemeal, or a band-aid, or respond after women are killed. We need the province to be proactive. We need the province to take steps in many areas of women's lives to ensure our equality, and to ensure that we can lead violence when it happens and prevent it from happening at all. The last thing I want to talk with you about really briefly, and I'm going to mention it and then we'll come back to it next week, definitely when I'm back with you. But right now, as you know, the Mayor and City Council have been conducting a core services review. They're willing to spend up to $3 million to consulting companies like KPMG and Qualitrix. So those companies, which are private companies, so those are tax dollars going to private companies, they have come back with their reports. They have extensively reviewed all of the areas that the city spends money in and where the city gets revenue. They have gone over all of the surveys that people have filled out online and in person, the core services review, and they're coming back right now as we speak with different reports from the different departments. I think they've released 2 or 3 so far of a total of about 8 that are coming out over the next couple of weeks through July. And what these reports are saying so far, and what they will continue to say, is that in fact the city needs all of the services that it has, that these services are effective, that people use them and they want them. What they're finding out so far is that people are willing to pay more taxes if it means keeping needed, essential, important services. They're finding out that, that there is not a lot of waste in the budgets of the different departments that they're looking at. They've identified, for example, in the 2 reports I've seen so far, that 96% of what is being spent is core. In other words, you can't do anything about it. So in fact, what we have happening at the city is what everybody knew would happen. A lot of money that could have been spent on something else, for example, bike lanes, which are being debated right now to be closed. But anyways, $3 million spent in the private sector to find out what we already knew, that there's no money to cut, or very, very little. And if we do want to cut money, we have to cut things like fluoride in our water, which would particularly affect young people, children, and newcomers to the city. We would have to shut down things like the welcome policy, which is something that happens in particular neighbors to help people feel at home and help them settle in new neighborhoods and help people who are marginalized. So this has been an exercise in futility. We knew this would happen. We knew that what has to happen is the vehicle registration tax needs to be put back on. We need to be pestering other levels of government to do their share and to fund transit and to fund other services the way they should be. We need them to stop downloading expenses onto the city, and we need a mayor and a council who will fight back against other levels of government when they do that kind of thing to us, when they impose the G20 on us, for example, as they did last summer. So we need a government who will stand up for the people of Toronto, not penny pinch and nitpick and cut and snip away at all of the services that make the city a wonderful place that it is. We're looking forward, or not, to reports about arts and culture and what they've got to suggest around that, parks and recreation, many other reports coming up. But basically our city needs everybody to do a little bit more. We need a tax increase. We need to see our government fighting with other levels of government for our city and for appropriate funding. We need to keep going down the road that we have been in terms of environmental consciousness, recycling, cleaning up the waste that we make and not adding to it. We need those programs expanded. We need more bike lanes and infrastructure to get cars out of this city. We need tolls in this city so that people who drive into the city every day are helping to pay for the roads that we pay for. You know, bicyclists, through our taxes, and our mayor is fond of talking about taxpayers as if they are some separate species that are not the same people who ride bicycles, who work in public services and in unions. These people, we are taxpayers too, and our taxes, for example, with cyclists, pay for the streets of Toronto that we are all riding on. But many, many cars who come into this city every day, hundreds of thousands, do not pay for those roads that they nevertheless depreciate. They do not pay in their taxes for the garbage that they leave in our city every day when they come. And so we need to make sure that people who are using the city, using services, are paying for those services, if it be through parking, through road tolls, etc. That way we do the environment a favor, we spread the costs and the expenses around, and we try to bring in more money for this city. We're going to come back to this next week. So I'm going to come back to you next week and talk a little bit more about committee meetings are coming up, how you can participate, how you can do a deputation at the various committees that will be considering these reports. The city managers are taking these reports away over the next couple of weeks, and they're going to come back to the different committees with information about what they recommend. So that's where we, as the public, can become involved. We can do a deputation on behalf of ourselves or on our group. So let's get together again next week and talk more about that and how you can get involved and have a say. And in the meantime, as I was saying before, please check out Step It Up Ontario on Facebook and on the internet, www.stepitupontario.ca, and join our campaign for a better province and to end violence against women. Thanks a lot.